Hello, fabulous Sonder family. It is so good to see you. I don't really see you. I promise we don't have cameras for you. It's just cameras for me. But I'm happy to be here with you. I see folks talking in the chat. I am happy to be hanging out with y'all on a Saturday afternoon, evening, depending on what time zone you're in, so we can set up our first full week of August. Super exciting. So I see lots of familiar returning names in the chat. So welcome. It's good to have everyone here. My name's Maya, and I am coming to you from Aurora, Colorado. It's a little suburb. Well, it's not little, but it's a suburb of Denver. And it's about 90 some degrees today. We've definitely been in the 90s. It's 93. We've been in the 90s for the last week or so. We've got some pretty nasty forest fires up to the north of us, so the air quality is really yuck. So hanging out inside today where it's nice and cool, and happy to be with you here. So if you are new to the socials, welcome. The nice thing is, again, there's no cameras for you. There's no microphone for you. So whatever's going on with you at home, if there's stuff in the background, if there's noise in the background, it's okay. Nobody else can hear it. It's all good. So if you've got little furry helpers, sometimes we have some cats helping out with the keyboard things, right? It's all good, like whatever works for you. And I do like to suggest one of the things that you do is to maybe have your phone handy or use the screenshot tool. I'm going to give you lots and lots of examples for these different areas that we're going to work on setting up. And so sometimes it's helpful to grab screenshots of those so that you can remember kind of what's going on. The other thing is sometimes that chat gets rolling pretty fast. We usually have 100 or so people with us for every social. And so sometimes that chat gets rolling really quickly. So if that is stressful for you, you do not have to participate in the chat, right? You can just nose in the journal and work on that and do what works for you. Conversely, some people like to hang out in the chat. They like to kind of offer each other tips and tricks and kind of catch up. This is our great little virtual community here. So you can do that and then work on it later. You can do a mix of it. Again, this really is here for you to use and do with as you will, right? And there's no wrong way to do a social. The other nice thing is we usually have multiple weekly setups. So this is the first one for this week, but we'll have another one tomorrow on Sunday, and then we'll have another one Monday morning. So lots of opportunities. You can come to all of them if you want, right? They're totally included in the price of your membership. So come and hang out and do what you'd like so that you can feel successful as you set up your week. Oh, yep. And I do see someone, Andrea, saying my dogs love to help too. Yep, dogs and cats. I think we've even had people with like iguanas and those kinds of things that are coming to help us with our setup. So we love it. And I love seeing pictures that folks take with their little friends who are helping us out there in the chat. So just a few little reminders, little housekeeping tips. First of all, make sure that chat is set to everyone. That little blue box, I should go back to this screen, that little blue box where it says everyone, it has a tendency to flip to the host and panelist. And when it flips to the host and panelist, which oftentimes it will default to, the only people who can see what you wrote are myself and my fabulous co-host, Jen O, who is here in the chat. She is keeping an eye to see if anybody needs anything or needs any help. But we're the only ones who see it. So if you ever notice you type something and you don't get much of a response, it could very well be that you have your chat set to only host and panelists. So flip that back. And a few other just housekeeping tips, community guidelines, really. The idea is we want to keep this a safe and supportive space. So we just ask that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and others. No promotions or spam. We respect everyone's privacy here in Sonder. In our Sonder socials, no hate speech or bullying. We limit those repetitive product and accessory questions. It's fine if you want to kind of ask somebody about their stickers or pens or something, but the best place to ask those questions is in our Sonder Club app. That way lots of people can give you links. Oh, speaking of links, if you're on a phone, oftentimes when we put links in the chat, you can't click on them. It's a weird thing with Zoom, with the latest update. They may have fixed it by now, I don't know, but just know you might have to take a screenshot and then type things in so that you can get to the different links. If you have any questions about customer care things like billing, or you haven't gotten your August journal yet, or you're moving and need to change your address, those kinds of things, those all go to the address hello@silkandsonder.com. Jennifer and I do not have access to your accounts. We can't help you with any of that, but our headquarters will. Just keep in mind that they're a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 operations. So if they don't get back to you immediately, just give them a little bit of time and they should get back to you. Also, I should mention, if you have Gmail, a lot of times our emails will go into the promotions tab where you might not see them. So keep an eye on that. You can also put them on the safe list to get them so that you are getting them, because sometimes they go into spam, right? So just keep an eye if you're not getting a response. I always tell people, make sure you check your spam. Make sure the address has been saved as like a trusted source or a trusted site. A lot of times you can just kind of click on the email and say like add to the address book, those kinds of things, so that you're able to get those things. And then finally, ultimately, our socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community, but you are responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if anything we're doing is kind of not your jam, you don't really want to fill out that page, or you don't really want to work on this particular section, you can totally do something else while we're working on those pages, right? It's totally up to you. There's no rules here. We're just here to kind of give some guidance. And I know a lot of people sign up for these just because it gives them that dedicated time on their calendar to spend. So if you're working on something else in your journal while we're talking about different setups, no problem. Also, if there's any, the music that I'm playing is not your jam, you can always mute it. You can mute me if I'm not your jam, right? That's totally acceptable, right? Everybody's not for every person. So do what is for you, right? This really is your time. We want to make this your time. We want to make this a place where you are happy and enjoying yourself and having fun setting up for the week, right? So hopefully you've seen by now that this month our theme is freedom, which has been kind of a fun area to start to dig into and think about for this month. And I found that there's lots of nice quotes. There's lots of nice quotes always in your journal, but I liked this one where it says freedom is the oxygen of the soul. I thought that was a great idea, this idea of freedom being the oxygen of the soul. So here's what we have to do for this week. We are going to do, when we meet for our weekly setup socials, we always do what we call a mind map. And so basically that's just a chance for you to kind of dig into that theme, think a little bit about it, and we give you some specific prompts to kind of dig into it. So we always do that. And just so you know, if a month happens to have like 5 weekends for some reason, we will always set it up for 3. And then if there's an extra weekend before we transition into the next one, we'll have kind of what we call a bonus mind map, where we kind of dig into something that maybe is kind of a mix of some of the different themes or something different. So as you're setting up, just know we always set it up for the 5 weekends, and then we might have, I think we actually do have a bonus that'll show up at the end of this month. So just so you know, just for planning purposes, right? And then we're also going to work on our rosebud thorn, give ourselves a little time to reflect back, and then we'll tackle a couple pages here in our journal. So I always like to include these 2 little cartoons from the artist The Latest Kate that have what I think are really important messages for you. The first one says, there's room for you here, just as you are. So if things are going great and you want to share celebrations, you want to share fabulous things that are happening, please share the good things. We love to celebrate with our Sonder fam. But we know that life isn't always a bowl of cherries, right? Everything's not always great. So sometimes there's some struggles. Sometimes there's illness. Sometimes there's work issues. Sometimes there's house issues, right? And you can share those as well, right? It's okay. I know sometimes people say, I don't want to be a downer. But that's not the thing, right? That's life. Life is not all ups and life is not all downs. And so your room for you here, whatever is there, please feel free to share. And then also the other one says there's room for you here. The way you feel matters, and no emotion you feel is bad or unworthy. So no one can tell you that how you should feel, like, oh, you shouldn't be mad at this, or oh, you shouldn't be angry at this. No, right? People can't tell you how you feel. Your feelings are your feelings, and we're here for all of them. So just know that we're here for all of that as we dive in. So let's dive into this idea of the mind map, right? And I'm going to show you kind of one of the ways you can set it up. I know lots of other folks set things up a little bit differently each time, and I know some people will show some examples. But what we're going to do is we're, again, thinking about this idea of freedom. And this month, we're going to explore freedom in different areas of our lives and think about ways we can achieve a sense of freedom, or remember what it felt like when we had that feeling of freedom in that particular area. So this week, we're going to ask you to think about this particular prompt. So we're going to focus this week on personal freedom, right? And so the question is, reflect on a time when you feel truly free to be yourself. What were the circumstances, and and how did this freedom impact your thoughts and actions? How can you cultivate more moments like this in your daily life? So again, we'll have each week we'll have the 4 mind maps, and you'll probably notice if you happen to miss a setup, people will always ask in the Sonder Club, like, what was this week's mind map? So don't worry, you won't miss anything. So for myself, when I was kind of thinking of this idea of personal freedom, I was remembering back in my early 20s when I was doing a summer abroad class in my undergraduate. Went to England. I got to go to Cambridge for the summer to take classes, and we were allowed, I think, like 2 or 3 unexcused absences, or like just to allow us to kind of skip so we could maybe go and kind of experience the place where we were instead of just, kind of doing schoolwork all the time. And so one time I remember going on the train. I took the train and I went to see Stonehenge. So that was something I had always wanted. That was something I had always been excited about, this idea. And so I didn't go with any of my friends. I went by myself. I needed some alone time. I wanted to kind of just be myself and just kind of be there and see this place that I had only read about or only had seen about. And so it was very exciting. I was listening to music, but just to date myself, I had a CD player, a portable CD player that I was listening to on the train. It wasn't like it is now, right, with my phone. But I was like listening to music and, on the train and seeing the countryside. And it was just so amazing to see it there and be there and just kind of see this amazing place. And it just really I felt very much like myself. I felt very, just kind of, I don't know, it was just a very freeing kind of thing. And so I was thinking, to cultivate more moments like this, maybe I need to work on doing what's on my bucket list, even if it means doing it by myself. Because sometimes I kind of get in a rut of thinking I have to have somebody with me, like I have to do it with my husband, or I have to have one of my sisters, or I have to have a friend, right? Like I can't go by myself. And it's like, no, I really could go by myself. Like it was very freeing to be by myself and to be able to be with my own thoughts and to just kind of have that experience. And I found this pretty little art kind of quote that talks about, you are free to slow down and truly feel. You are free to have a tender heart. You are free to be strong and embrace gentleness as an integral part of who you are. And that was really something, as I kind of think about that kind of who I was in that time and how that felt. So what I'm going to do is I will kind of leave it, I'll kind of pop on these 2 pages. I will let you work on this section. Please feel free to share in the chat if you would like to, kind of what you're thinking of when you think about personal freedom. And then we'll check back in here in just a few moments. All right. Thank you for taking some time just to kind of think about that. I really appreciate everyone's vulnerability and really kind of thinking about what is it about personal freedom, right? When is a time when I felt really truly free to be myself? And I saw, some people were saying, gosh, that hasn't happened for me for a really long time. I've been, sometimes we put on masks or we kind of assume some roles that we think we should have. Sometimes maybe we haven't felt free since we were kids, right? When we were kind of doing our own thing. And so really thinking this month about how you can cultivate moments of freedom doesn't necessarily mean that you will always feel completely free, but how can you maybe grab just a little bit of that daily freedom? So if you used to love to paint or draw or color, we have coloring socials where maybe you haven't spent time doing one of those, but you just want to give yourself a little bit of that time to be free, to be yourself. I know someone was saying that. A lot of times we kind of again put up those barriers for some people. Maybe it was when in your marriage, and maybe again you were kind of trying to be somebody that you weren't, and really kind of that not feeling free, right? That time where you're just spending a lot of energy and effort trying to be someone else. So just kind of start small. Think about some small ways that you can do things. I will also say, my fabulous husband is very supportive of some of my craziness. I can get a little goofy sometimes, and he's always like, "You are so weird," but he will say it in like the most loving way, and he loves my weirdness and really encourages that to shine through. Which my first husband, many many years ago, was not right, and I tried to kind of conform to what I thought he had wanted, and then I realized I don't want to live like that, right? And I see a lot of folks kind of talking about that and realizing, yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. So thanks for spending just a few minutes reflecting and for sharing in the chat. Again, I think it's really helpful to kind of see what other folks have experienced and how you're thinking about this idea of personal freedom and what that looks like moving forward. And if you feel like maybe you've never really had that sense of personal freedom, what are some, again, small steps, small things you can do? And you might be able to incorporate that in some of our habits, or our different areas that we work on this week. So maybe you can just get like a little taste of what that looks like as you go through your week. So let's turn to our journal now. You have on page 30, we always spend just a little bit of time reflecting on the week that just passed, right? And I think this is so important because sometimes we're just constantly barreling through things, and it's hard to give ourselves that time to really kind of think about what we did this last week and how things went. So we always spend a little time on our rose, our bud, and our thorn. So our rose is something that we've enjoyed, something that we really loved, something that made us happy, something that made us smile. Our bud is something that we're looking forward to, something in the future, but it's exciting, something fun that we're looking forward to. And then our thorn is something that's challenging, something maybe that's frustrating, it's out of our control. Maybe it's something that went wrong, something that's been stressful. So, and sometimes I like to start with my thorn just so that I can end with the rose, right? So my thorn, I've been having and dealing with an arthritis flare up for the last month, pretty much the whole month of July. It's been super painful. At least I can walk with just a little bit of help with the crutch now. I was on like two crutches and it was like super super painful. Um, Super frustrating, I know, for anyone who has any sort of chronic health conditions that can just really it impedes on your freedom, right? And it's definitely something that can be super frustrating. So I've started doing some different therapy things that are helping, but it definitely is a thorn, and it continues to be a thorn, right? So super, super frustrating. But my bud is something that emerging opportunity. I'm super excited, and hopefully it goes well next weekend. We are going to fly into Portland, Oregon, and then we're actually going to drive up to Seattle. We're going to go to there's an exhibit, Hidden Worlds of Latvia, which is the Latvia, I think is how you say it. The movies where they do all the cool little stop motion things. So I'm super excited about that because it has like Coraline and Kubo and Boxcar Trolls and all of those. They have a little exhibit there. So I'm super, super excited about that. coming up, and hopefully it won't be too much for walking because I'm still having a little issues there. And then my rose, the something that's a highlight, something that's really fun. I think I told you about, I have one of the little bird feeders that have the cameras on there so that I can see them. And so I have a little picture of my little scruffy chickadee and a house finch. The chickadee is actually kind of mad at the house finch for eating some of the food. So, but it's so much fun to watch them. I just love watching my little birds there at their feeder. So I'll again play a little bit of music, let you work on that. And then feel free to share in the chat your rose, your bud, or your thorn, or all three. And sometimes something is all three, right? When we were doing our room remodel, our bedroom remodel, the remodel was the rose, the bud, and the thorn for several weeks, right? So just so you know, sometimes things can be all three. So play a little bit of music for you here. We'll check back in here in just a few minutes, and feel free to share in the chat. Oops. All right, so hopefully that gave you some time to do a little reflecting. I also like to recommend sometimes if you can't quite remember everything that happened in the last week, right? Sometimes time goes by pretty quickly. Look through that your cell phone, look through the gallery, the pictures, right? See if you took any pictures of anything, will kind of help remind us. And I know sometimes when things have been stressful, it's hard sometimes to think of the rose, but it's really important. And I know sometimes it doesn't have to be something huge, right? So someone was talking about maybe the fact that we have air conditioning and it's been really hot, and that's definitely a rose, right? To have a nice cool house. Um maybe you washed your sheets and you have some lovely freshly washed sheets. Those are always a rose. I think those are kind of fun. Maybe it's you treated yourself to a cold tasty beverage, right? Like I like to go to Sonic. I don't know if everybody has Sonic, the little fast food restaurant, but they have I like to get the diet cherry limeades. That always kind of reminds me of summer, and it reminds me of fun, and it's just kind of a fun little extra treat. So again, kind of think of those fun. Yeah, Danielle is saying, unless you're folding the fitted sheet. I do not fold my fitted sheet. I just kind of smush it together. Yeah, and Brenda loves the cherry limeades too, right? So sometimes just think about a rose can be something that's really small, and sometimes you do have to kind of go out of your way a little bit to figure out what that rose might be. But looking back at these are really helpful to find the rose and the bud, because sometimes it can be really easy for us to list out that thorn, right? All right, so again, thank you for sharing in the chat. Hopefully, I know some folks are having job struggles, some folks are having some health struggles, and I'm sending lots and lots of positive thoughts your way, and I know everyone here in the Sonder family is thinking that as well. So let's jump in to our weekly planner so we can work on these 2 pages. So these pages are on page 32 and 33. And for those of you keeping score at home, this is week 32 of the year, right? As we march on through 2024. And the first little part that we're going to think about is this week, how do you want to feel? And I always kind of say, this is the like, what's your intention for the week? How do you want to show up for everybody? How do you want to present yourself? How do you want to feel as you're going into this first full week of August? And so sometimes it's just a word, right? And I give you lots of different words that are here in this little picture. And then here's some other words that people have come up with, this idea of how we want to show up for ourselves. So we have people who want to feel loved, ready, enough, more energized, less scattered. I like the idea of more and less. Denise wants to feel excited, enthusiastic, 1% better, healthy. I've been definitely putting, I want to feel healthy. I want to feel strong. I want to feel, um, able to, move around, right? Those kinds of things. So think about those different kinds of words as you're thinking about how you want to kind of show up for the week. I'll play just a little bit of music for you to kind of think about this, share those words in the chat, and then we'll check back in. All right, so many great words people have in there. I saw lots of happy, kind, peaceful, healthy, confident. And what else do I see? Feeling free, right? And that kind of embraces the month's theme. Feeling more focused, feeling peaceful, feeling present, refreshed, confident, energized, healthy, open. That's a nice one. Balanced, accomplished, stable. So yeah, so keep this in mind now as you have kind of this idea for this overarching feeling. And when we move into this next section where it says weekly major 3 goals, think about what kind of goals, what 3 goals could you come up with to help you achieve that feeling for the month, right? So here's some examples of things that folks have done. So I have some examples where it's just the 3 goals, but then I have some examples where to kind of show you both the feeling and the goals. So for example, one person wanted to feel achieved and happy. So their goals were eating well, staying active, and self-care. And they even have some things specifically listed under each one of those. And those will help them feel achieved and happy. One person said main character energy. I love that. That's kind of a fun idea, right? Main character energy. And they're going to lean into their routines, take responsibility for how they want to feel, and follow their peace. And then sometimes people, they like the person has informed and they're going to have more trainings at work. And then they have a quote for the goals instead of actually writing something down. So they, kind of did this quote to kind of encompass they're feeling, or they want to feel content. And so they're going to delete, delegate, and delight in different things. Maybe you want to be present, intentional, and joyful. Sometimes people divide this up into a work goal, a body goal, and a mind goal. So those are good ideas, different ways to kind of approach this little section. Here's some more, again, examples. They want to feel present. And so they have the three different areas: God, job, and detach for their goals. One person wants to feel invigorated. So they have a mind, body, and soul goal. Grounded and joyful. They want to focus on more productivity at work, spending quality time with family, recommitting to organizing projects. I like the one person, they have encouraged, and they kind of have like a three little, almost a Venn diagram where they have things listed. Some people want to feel a fresh perspective on their past, a renewed hope for the future. And then they talk about what perspective and hope are in terms of a quote. So again, this is kind of like a nice way, to really kind of think about those goals that you have. Now, some people set monthly goals, and so the idea of weekly goals doesn't necessarily appeal to them. They have something that they're working on for the month. So you can always repurpose this little section. Maybe you want to have some quotes in there, podcasts you want to listen to, movies you want to see, TV shows that you want to watch. Maybe it's something that you want to read. This is ways to get excited about spring. We could maybe say summer, or fall technically is kind of sort of coming in a little bit. Maybe it's songs for the week. Maybe you want to explore some topics, try some new recipes. Maybe you want to put a bingo in this section. And yeah, Jennifer's pointing out in the chat, maybe you don't have three goals. Maybe you have one specific goal, and that's what you want to focus on. Again, this is really kind of your area to really think about those goals that you want. So again, I'll play a little bit of music here, and then we'll check back in here in just a few moments. Okay, so hopefully you have some ideas for this goal section. Again, it can be just one goal that you want to focus on. You can look back at your intentions for the month to help you set those goals. The goals can also help with your feelings. So just really kind of doing what works for you with those goals. I've been kind of, since I've been having this trouble with my knees, I've been kind of, one of my goals is to just um, give myself grace and time for my knees to feel better. So not pushing myself, which I like to tend to do. So sometimes maybe it's something along those lines where you're giving yourself the grace to have the time, right? To feel good. So we're going to do, I'm going to talk a little bit about the to-dos, and I'm going to talk about that section underneath the habits and activities, or the habities, as I called them that one time, the habities, where I kind of made a little, combined them together for one word, right? So our to-dos can be just basically that, right? A list of to-dos that you need to get done for the week. So some things that people like to do is they like to set up what they call the Eisenhower matrix, where it basically has you kind of classify your to-dos as either important or urgent. So things you're going to do, they're important, but they're not urgent. So you're going to maybe decide when you would do it or what that would look like. Maybe they're things that aren't important, but they are urgent. They're things that need to be done, not necessarily super important. So maybe you could delegate that to someone. And even if you don't have a specific person you could delegate it to, sometimes maybe delegating the task of making dinner by eating out or getting takeout is something that you could delegate a particular task. Or things that are not important and not urgent, maybe those are things that you want to delete, or maybe you want to delay, right? And Jennifer's popping a link in the chat that gives you a lot more information about the Eisenhower matrix. It can be really helpful as you're trying to prioritize different things, those to-do lists, right? You might also want to have a need, want, and hope to-do list. I love this idea of here are things I need to do, here are things I want to do, and here is kind of what I hope for this week. Kind of here's the things that I'm hoping that happens. So kind of a nice way to kind of break things up. It's like, okay, these are the absolute must-dos, and then here are things that I want to do. So maybe you'll be able to check them off, maybe not, but it gives you kind of an idea of how you're prioritizing those things. And here's some examples of things that folks have done. I like the now and later. Here's the things we're going to do in the next day or two, and here's things I'm just doing later on throughout the week. Maybe you have a work and a home to-do list. Maybe you have things, again, you need to do and things you want to do. I know school is getting ready to start up. Our district starts up on Wednesday. Can you believe it or not? Kids come back on the 7th. So maybe you have a school and a personal to do. Maybe you have things that are AM and PM, kind of have them in the morning and the evening kinds of lists that you have for the to-dos. Maybe you want to repurpose this section. Maybe you want to list some self-care ideas that you have, depending on how much time you have. So this is a nice little graphic down in the bottom that comes from our Silk and Sonder Instagram page. If you have 60 seconds, you could do something 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So maybe you want to remind yourself of those things. Maybe you want to have a to-don't list. So things you don't want to do this week, things you want to kind of work on cutting out. Maybe you want to make a bingo. We do love a good bingo. So those are kind of fun for the to-do list, kind of gamify things a little bit. Maybe it's a ta-da list. So as you do things, you write them down and like, ta-da, it's already done. Kind of gives you that sense of accomplishment. Maybe it's a to-be list. You don't necessarily want to do things, but how you want to be. So you want to be grounded, compassionate, reflective, active, delighted, kind, calm, purposeful, right? So how you want to be. So those are some ideas. And then some people like to interchange these different ideas here for the to-dos and the habits, right? And Brenda was asking, is there someplace permanent that the weekday self-care ideas live? You could put those certainly on the next page on the mind, body, health, if that's what you're kind of thinking of a place to put them. So in those little habits and activities, those are things that we want to do for the week. They're different from our habit wheel. That's the monthly wheel. The monthly one is more for things you want to do every day. This is more for things that are specific to the week. So you can see some different ways that people have kind of set these up. There's the just say no part, where they're going to delete emails and declutter and have days without sugar, throw away expired foods, no social media. You don't have to fill in every blank, right? You could just be one thing. One person wants to hydrate and that's what they want to focus on. Maybe they want to focus on three things: dishes, laundry, and the daily ritual, how many times those happen. Notice that one on the bottom where they kind of circle, they outline the circles, kind of saying, these are the days I want to do this. These are the days I want to focus on these things. Again, using that August intentions page and the monthly habit tracker, this is also a great place to remind yourself to track, maybe your mood tracker, to go look at your monthly habit tracker. Remind yourself here to go back in there. And some people just take that section down at the bottom and just cover it with stickers, right? They're like, you know what? I don't need this part. Having this is like a little too much for me. They have lots of fabulous stickers in there. One person just wrote, nope. I think they were going on a trip. They had a vacation planned. And so they just were like, nope, I'm not filling anything in here. And I love this quote that says, the first step to getting what you want is having the courage to get rid of what you don't. So again, thinking about that to-do section, thinking about those habits and activities, maybe there's some things that you want to get rid of, that you want to move on from. So I'll play a little bit of music here, let you work on this one, and then we'll continue on our journey. fantastic ideas from everyone about how to tackle those to-dos and those habits, kind of what you're going to be looking at, different kinds of a lot of folks were going to do bingos. Some folks were going to do just kind of that Eisenhower matrix. Some people were going to, maybe I'll just focus on the habits and not worry about that list of to-dos. Again, it's kind of whatever works for you. And I definitely like the idea of kind of maybe trying out something for the week and seeing how it goes. And then if that thing doesn't work, then the nice thing is you'll have a new week in no time and where you can kind of change something up. The other thing too is if you've been listing those same habits and activities every single week and that's working really well for you, of course, bring those over, right? You don't have to come up with brand new things. You can keep those things that are really helping establish those habits. So thanks everyone for sharing all of that in the chat. Very good stuff. The chat is gold, right? Lots of good stuff there. So we're going to flip over in our last little bit of time together, and I'm going to go over each of the sections that are on page 33. And we have one of our facilitators, Katie, calls this the B side, right? It's like the flip side of the record, right? You might like some of the stuff on here. You might want to use it this week, or maybe it's just a doodle place or a scratch pad, a place to put some stickers, a place to do some bingos, right? It kind of depends on what you need. So the first section is the meal plan. I think this is probably one of the most heavily repurposed areas of our journal, I think, because not everyone is tracking their meals or planning their meals, but you can certainly use it as a symptom or a health tracker. Maybe it's a daily debrief. Maybe it's keeping track of daily scripture, schoolwork, homework, lesson plans, those kinds of things as school starts to kick back in. Maybe it's a word of the day. Maybe it's some reflections on the week, journal prompts and responses, a chore list, some appointments, socials. Maybe if you've signed up for some other socials this week, we've got some fun ones going on this week. And for those of you who are missing Karen, our fabulous facilitator, she is facilitating on Tuesday night. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. I'll be helping her out with that. So I know some people have been like, where'd Karen go? She's been busy with her Pilates studio, but she'll be able to pop in on Tuesday. So make sure if you're able to and you miss her, you want to come and check that out. Maybe it's a checklist that you keep. Some people like keep their meetings on there, just those kinds of things that you can kind of keep track of. Maybe you want to keep track of 7 types of rest. Feels and meals. I love that idea of kind of like how they're feeling either before they're eating or maybe how they're feeling as they're eating. A self-care plan, a weekly reflection, always good to have. Then that mind body health plan is a great place to kind of keep track of different things that you can do for your mind and your body. Make it a bingo. And I love the one who has the fun kind of keep it fun. And then they kind of have it linked out there. So that's kind of fun. Thinking about the real luxuries in life, right? Listening to birds singing, long walks. Maybe you can add some of those things in. Girls just want to have fun. They have some fun things that they're going to do there. Again, just kind of listening. I love the one who has the get off my butt and they have the little person walking away from the chair. So that's super kind of, a fun way to kind of think about that. Keeping track of your Wordle, keeping track of a cleaning task list, maybe thinking about what you feel and what you need. Maybe it's self-care types of things. So it's maybe body self-care, right? So doing some face masks or lotion, or maybe it's getting some exercise in, getting some fresh air in. I like the person down in the bottom right. They kind of, how every day is a national something day. So they have like the different National Spider-Man Day, National Ice Cream Sandwich Day. If you aren't sure what the national days are for the week, you can Google what are the national days for August, and you can see all sorts of different ones that pop up there. So those are kind of fun. Then that shopping list, again, is just a place where some people use it as a shopping list. Oh, Jennifer popped in the link also for National Day calendar, so you can get that. You can do a shopping list. You can have I love the motivation bingo, a birthday week bingo, yay me, mind, body, heart, a self-care shopping list, things, their nighttime routine that they're kind of keeping track of, doing different things, a packing list. I definitely like to use that to kind of keep track of what I'm packing when I'm going to go on a trip. Here's some more examples of lots of different things: chores, to-do lists, a social check-in when you're going to check in with some different folks. Again, a bingo, filling your cup, those kinds of things. And then the last little section here to kind of think about is the I am loving section. What are you loving for the week? Some people like to fill this out at the beginning of the week. Some people do this in the middle of the week, kind of like whatever you are loving, or whatever you're looking forward to. Could also be a space for a quote or some stickers, right? Whatever kind of strikes your fancy as you're working there. So again, I'll let you work on that. Share in the chat how you're using some of these sections. I'll kind of cycle through the different pictures, and then we'll check back in to wrap things up. All right. Well, believe it or not, this is always the fastest hour, but I saw lots of folks sharing different things that they were using for each of these sections. Someone's doing sending postcards for the election, adding that to their list. Love that. So yeah, so just kind of adding what works. And you know what? Again, I want to stress, because I see this a lot of times in the in our app, is where people are talking about it's stressing them out. They don't have all the things filled out. They feel like they're doing it wrong. There's no wrong way to do this. Some weeks you might fill every little space in your journal up, and then the next week you don't do anything in it. And it is totally fine. None of us are going to come to your door and knock on the door and tell you you're doing it wrong and confiscate your journal, right? It's all about what you love. It's all about what helps you for the week, and just kind of release that guilt or release that stress there. All right. So please feel free to share any of those pages of your weekly planner from your setup in Sonder Club. That's where we get all of these examples from. They're real life examples. They are not AI generated. Nope, there are no journal police, Reverend Joy Allen. No one's going to come knock on your door, I promise. And we love to see what folks are doing. I do want to just really quickly remind you that we do have that personalized coaching plan that's still in beta right now, that they're doing 50% off for the first 3 months with the promo code. So if you want to check that out, that's definitely a cool thing to check out. I've been doing that. Lots of fun personalized things that you get in a text message, and then you go to a website and gives you lots of personalized readings, coaching plans, habits, um, kind of some self-discovery homework. So it's kind of like it's a lovely addition to things that you're already working on in your journal and in Sonder Club. So thank you all so much for joining us. Jennifer is popping lots of links in the chat for things that you can take advantage of. The Refer a Friend program, upgrading to the annual subscription, letting us know how things are going with these Sonder socials in a survey. You will get an email with all of these links as well. There's also the wonderful YouTube link that has, I don't know, we have over 700 I think socials in there. So if you're ever feeling lonely and we don't have a social scheduled, you can always find one of the old ones, right? I mean, we go back several years. So find a fun old one and do some of those prompts. You don't have to have the specific journal. You can always just kind of follow along on a blank page there. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. Love having you here with us, and we will see you all again hopefully soon. Take care, everyone.